to kind of tune in.
Don't give us an audience count, like no matter what, whether it's 0 or 1 million, doesn't matter.
You will see it, believe it or not.
Oh, goodness, really?
And you'll see comments already at 7 within a few seconds. So,
all right.
I want to see that.
Top left corner. Already at 7 within a few seconds. So,
I see you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you.
Yep, you're left corner. Just make sure that the audio's off because it will start to feedback.
You're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you.
Yep, you're so you guys can also share this to wherever you want to. We'll give it like a good 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay.
And people are tuning in and also can comment, and we'll be able to see the comments as well.
What am I supposed to be able to see, Zach? I see.
Right now, I just have the banner thing.
Okay, so no comments and all that stuff, and I can't see my my cohorts.
Yep.
And that's normal. Okay, cool.
For right now, we'll just give it a couple seconds for some other folks that. I'll read this little introduction and then we'll get rolling.
Hey Brian, are you wearing pants?
Am I what?
Are you wearing pants?
No, I'm not.
I decided I wasn't going to ask him that because I just didn't want to know.
That's my favorite part about this whole pandemic thing is we go pantsless the whole time.
You said you were wearing chaps.
Yeah. Well, those aren't exactly pants.
Well, let's have some fun. All right, let's have some fun. All right, folks, thank you for tuning in. It looks like we already started getting some people here, so why not just get rolling? In the 90s, Beavis and Butt-Head dominated MTV, and creator Mike Judd decided to make another animated TV series. That series was called King of the Hill. Like many sitcoms, King of the Hill has a very recognizable theme song named Yahoos and Triangles. This song is arguably one of the most memorable theme songs ever and was written and recorded by Tempe, Arizona's rock band, none other than the Refreshments. On today's incredibly special episode, we bring together the 4 Refreshments that wrote and recorded this iconic tune. Alphabetically, Art, there he is, Bud, Brian, there he is, and PH, NAFTA, and Roger. And let's see here, we're going to revisit on how this all came together and how the stars aligned. It allows these fine gentlemen to make TV theme history. But for all you fans out there, before we jump into it, I would like to mention that there is an hour and 33-minute documentary on the band's history, among other things, called Here's to Life, the Story of the Refreshments, that is available on Amazon. I did put that link in the description of the YouTube, I believe. I can't remember if it's in Facebook, but without any further ado, gentlemen, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Who's going to start?
Ready to start. PH, if we don't mind starting, just ask you a question. Sure. What do you recall leading up to this even opportunity to do a theme song rather for the show? Where were you guys at traveling or in refreshment land?
There's quite a few things going on, inhaling and otherwise, that causes me to not remember a few things. But we were on the road. And touring pretty hard at the time, and we really didn't even think much of it. The opportunity came along, and it was something that we were just like, yeah, we'll give it a shot. It just seems like another opportunity. But we were more concentrated on just kind of playing live shows and writing songs for another record and things like that. But so it really wasn't that big of a deal to us when it popped up.
Does anybody else have any recollections from that time period prior to recording?
I remember.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say, I remember we were in the Midwest when this thing started to really sort of become significant to us. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but we played in Wichita, Kansas, and the place that we played, I don't know if you guys remember this, but when we walked in, there were pictures of women in bikinis on the wall with numbers on them. Do you guys remember that place? It was like, I think it was like a, it was like a whorehouse or something. I just remember walking into the lobby and seeing all these photos of women in bikinis, and then they had numbers next to their on the corner of their photos. And I guess you picked your number and did whatever. But anyway, that night was a rock and roll show. So that's my distinct memory of when this became a reality.
That is such a perfect Brian Blesh memory. I love that. You have to hold that corner down for us. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Bud, do you recall?
Yeah, it seemed to me that we wrote it maybe within weeks of hearing about it. And I mean, from the time we heard about it, we like turned to each other and go, we wrote that theme song and we didn't even know that the show existed, We were always noodling around with whatever. And it was more or less a tension breaker type lick that we would play. Maybe it would resurface. We would play a gig and somebody would break a string and there would be, somebody would play their latest little ding, 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 whatever. And it was always a fun kind of tension breaker, not the serious stuff that we were doing. This wasn't going to be a hit single. It was just, silliness and always kind of reminding yourself that it's supposed to be fun kind of music. And so we heard about it from Michael Lustig, and he said, the guy who did Beavis and Butt-Head, and we were like, ding, he was like, he's going to have a new cartoon and it comes on after The Simpsons, and we were like, ding. And we knew that we just wrote that thing, that was nothing. It was, it was just silliness. And we were in Wichita, Kansas was where I remember it, Brian.
Yeah, Wichita.
And we came on for the encore, and Roger told the crowd, I don't know if you remember this, Roger, but he said, we're sending this to our manager, Michael Lustig, because we want it to be a theme song for a television show you've never heard of, and probably will never hear of. But when we're done, would you just scream really loud? And it was like 500 people, and and they were kind and having a good time, and did so. And so we sent the tape to Lustig the next day, and it very quickly came back that ours was the one they were singing around the office, was the phrase I remember Michael using. So
yeah.
I don't know if that matches up with anybody else's memory, but that's kind of what comes to mind.
Yeah,
Roger.
Mine's the same way. I remember the band thinking we had this opportunity to submit something, and Danny Elfman was going to submit music, and everybody else of the Fountains of Wayne was submitting music, and Michael was bugging us, our manager was bugging us to do something. And we were I was like, I don't know anything about this show. And we got sent a 30-second pencil test, and it's awful. It gives no information. And I was being a little bit precious, which I'm inclined to be. And I was like, I'm not gonna waste my energy on this. I don't know who this is. And Michael called me up and said, just fucking do something, okay? Just do something, princess. And so I was like, well, we've got this little dealio that we've been messing with. And so the band put it together. And like Bud said, finally at the last day in Wichita, where Brian thinks we were playing a brothel.
You remember that place? You remember that place, Raj?
No, I don't, but I love that you do. I don't know if it existed, Brian. Like, all respect, but I don't know if that's how it was. I like how your memory just goes ahead and makes whatever it wants. So does mine. Anyway, we did that. We coached the crowd and sent it in, and then kind of the rest is history. We had that little, that thing that Bud said, this is to remind us that it's not all serious. I think we called it Bonanza on steroids, just screwing around. And then we're like, well, here you go. Here's our submission, Fox TV. And then lo and behold, it happened. I do remember a phone call that I got when I was in Philadelphia. The band we had a break. And let's see if anybody else remembers this. I remember humming around the office. Michael said the who's he was. He's the big guys are humming this around the office. And I got a phone call in Philadelphia, and it was a luxurious day. I remember I had my own hotel room. Got a phone call on an actual phone, put it up to my ear, and Michael Lustig, our manager, said, "Hey, I need you to put you on a conference call with somebody." And I said, "Yeah, sure." It was a little bit out of order, but whatever. And I got on this conference call, and it was Mike Judge, Joe Boucher, Greg Daniels, all in Hollywood, and they did this thing. They're like, "Oh, is this Roger Klein of the Refreshments?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." "Well, I don't know who the hell you think you are, but you can't submit a live tape. This is Hollywood, and we do things this way. And I don't know what sort of pretense you think you are, just being in a rock and roll band, but like real composers send in real demos." And I was shocked and horrified. And then I froze up, and they broke character. And we're like, "We're kidding. We love it. We want you to come to Hollywood and play this."
I have a question for you guys.
Shit out of me.
I have a question for you guys. There was a gentleman that you went to record with. His name was Pete Anderson. Oh, wow. Pete.
Boom.
There he is.
Kabam.
Howdy, Pete.
Anderson, how are you today?
I'm on a telephone, so I'm real small.
Hey, you can turn that phone to the side and you get even bigger if you do the widescreen. Watch this. Maybe not.
I'm just glad
Pete,
I connected. Just to get
Pete, thank you so much for joining. Yeah. Hey, what do you recall? You in 1993-ish, you guys did an album. Well, you produced an album for Dwight Yoakam. So you're coming out of a lot of production. How did you find out about this King of the Hill thing and get involved?
The Refreshments, I think, I don't know if they were signed, but they had a relationship with an A&R guy named Peter Lubin. And I don't remember if he signed them or if he was trying to sign you guys. I don't remember the story on that.
He was the manager.
Huh?
He was
the
A&R
manager.
guy.
A&R.
He signed us, yeah.
Yeah, A&R Mercury.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think he was the manager. Anyway, and I'd worked with Peter Lubin and him and his associate Sue Drew. We did Michelle Shock, and I did the Black Velvet Band in Ireland. I did some projects with him, and I had a relationship with him. And he called up and said, "Hey, would you like to sit in on this? This band I've been working with. You guys are from Arizona, right?"
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. Yeah, this band I've been working with is going to cut a song for King of the Hill. And I didn't really watch King of the Hill, but everybody that all the musicians, my friends were all like, "King of the Hill, are you crazy? You got to work with that. That's the best ever." They were just in love with King of the Hill. So as far as what I remember, we met over at Mad Dog Studios in Burbank.
Hold on.
And we cut the track that what Roger was just talking about, theme song.
We lost him. And there's the other
Pete.
guitar player. I'm sure he'll be back.
Brian should do
Hey, as long as I'm up, let me give a little prologue to
please.
to what Roger was saying there. Raj had the melody of that little riff, that dun, 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 dun. So I remember, Raj, I don't know if you remember this or not, but one day for some reason you and I were at Guitar Center and we were looking at guitars or amps or something, and you were saying that you had this idea, and I remember saying to you, totally meaning as a compliment, that riff really got under my skin. You got pissed off at me. You got pissed off at me, and I'm like, no, I meant it like it's like a hook, you know.
Funny, the way I heard it was,
I'll never forget that because I remember you were all mad at me, and I'm like, no, I meant it in the exact. I meant it in a complimentary way.
Emblematic of the tension of a relationship at the time. I do remember.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
that's a piece of shit or something like that. I was like, well.
No, I just.
So I was like, whatever. Go fuck
disconnect.
And then it became our most famous piece.
Yeah. Well,
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I completely misspoke, because I meant to say, what I meant to come across as is that it really sticks, you know? And I said, it really gets under your skin or something like that. And I remember you being pissed off at me, and I'm like, no, you got it.
Well, that was just kind of our whole relationship. You know?
That's true. I suppose it is.
Yeah,
that's true.
Just kind of how it goes.
All right, so Pete's.
But I do
Pete,
remember that, and I think one time we were in Austin, and we were at some little indie shop, and I was thumping around with that thing. No, that happened later. Never mind. That's in the future. We'll go to let's talk about the present.
All right. Hey, really quickly. So, all right, we see you, Pete. What a handsome man you are. Here we go. So, something about, I'm assuming Beavis and Butt-Head, Mike Judge, King of the Hill, and you guys, Refreshments. Did you guys all jump in the van and then, hey, we're going to go do the song? Is that basically how that came to be?
My recollection was we were on tour and we were playing a festival, an indoor festival in Ontario, California. And the next day we were supposed to be recording The King of the Hill with Pete at Mad Dog or somewhere in Burbank. And we didn't really know what we were doing aside from having sound checked it, but it's a pretty simple song. And I just remember feeling sort of apprehensive, like, oh, we're doing this tomorrow for Fox and Joe Boucher and King of the Hill and Mike Judge and all that stuff. And it was kind of a mini anxiety attack. But I remember being in the back of the van on that little loft we used to have, guys. Remember that thing? The Swaft? And working on it, because I was like, then I'm like, why am I working on it? I don't even play guitar on this thing.
All right, Pete, you back with us? I think so. Hopefully. All right. So
it keeps kicking me out.
Someone's playing Minecraft or something in your house. Who knows? So Pete, the guys show up to the studio and you guys start tracking this thing. If I recall, when you guys started doing this, the whole triangle portion, where hence the name comes from,
keeps cutting in and out.
Raj, how did that whole triangle thing come? Did you have it like mailed to you? Was it
Yahoos and Triangles? Yeah. Somehow, in the big hootenanny, we were woo, and somebody said we need a cowbell, and I think PA said no, we need a triangle. And my father, Doc Klein, who's in the house and should say hello. Viewers might know him as the sheriff in the Refreshments.
Have him bring the triangle in, Raj.
I meant to. I totally meant to. And we made it here. My dad and I made it here at the ranch out of sucker pipe, which is a thing that goes down an old windmill. And we made it just to be a dinner bell to call, everybody in. Anyways, I had that. It was at my house. It wasn't here at the ranch. Doc, you should say hi. And we had it mailed out like the next day because PH was like, we need a triangle. Here's Doc Klein right here. You got a sheriff. So, that's a sheriff from Banditos.
What's up, you guys? Y'all looking good.
Here comes the law.
Triangle.
Keep on rocking.
Mm-hmm. So, don't leave him hanging. Roger,
Anyways,
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it.
It came from here. It was made out of windmill suck pipe that Doc cut and fashioned, and we were using this at dinner bell and had mailed to Hollywood for that particular moment. And it's hanging in my backyard in Tempe right now. And I meant to bring it, but I spaced it.
So you're saying
figure out this computer thing.
The triangle bell was pre-text message to tell people to come in and eat, basically.
Yes, indeed, It was. It was. Just call in the hands from the pastures so we could all eat together.
So we are all hoping that Saturday Night Live does a more triangle with Will Ferrell instead of cowbell to resurrect all of this.
More triangle. That's a great. That's a great. No, I love it. More triangle is our new theme.
That'll be our.
That's a new T-shirt.
Yeah.
Refreshments T-shirt. The band that doesn't exist anymore, but we do have a T-shirt.
We do have T-shirts.
You'd be surprised that does happen. So okay, so we've in the studio recording the song. Is there any recollection on the different passes, or I believe Pete actually plays some guitar at the very end, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to let somebody else talk because I usually hog the mic, so let somebody else kind of go down memory lane. But I have something about Pete's pass.
All right, let's do that. Let's do it this way. PH, do you recall anything from the recording process?
Yeah, they asked me to play a little guitar on it.
Did you say PH or Pete?
PH.
Oh yeah. I remember they were asking us for some lyrics. Like, hey, do you guys have any lyrics for this thing? You know? And we all look at each other and like, lyrics? And no, we don't have anything. So, but I grabbed Bud, and we went in there. And I was like, Bud, I got an idea. Come on with me. And I was like, hey, throw up a microphone. I got this idea. So I went in there and just kind of screamed at the top of my lungs, it's Yahoo. And then Bud chimes in right behind me with the harmony Yahoo. I thought was the coolest thing ever. So that stuck. And they were like, all right, great. Done take. Remember that, Bud?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
What I remember more than anything is the triangle. The triangle is a very important aspect. And anytime you go into the studio, you're kind of, at least in a band like us, where we're 4 guys and we would go out and play. We had our 4 parts, and it was all kind of done. You know, we were like the Ramones. It's like, this is the song, it's done. This is the way we play it forever. So you're always going into the studio. You're always looking for that one thing that, you know, might surprise you or, you know, might make it kind of special. And so Roger brings in the triangle, and I don't listen to the King of the Hill theme and try to imagine hitting a triangle that quickly, because it was like more than 5, maybe 10 takes, ding 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 a ding a ding a ding, and it, you have to like get inside of it and do it like, you know, like the old country, you know, where you've got it, you know, and I remember that and being impressed that, you know, PH had managed to pull that off out of nowhere.
Yeah, I was hitting it with like the piece of rebar that was like, you know, that thick, and it was like 20 pounds. I'm trying to.
Wasn't Raj holding it like by
Jim
Raj,
Swafford
you
and
it
I
up?
were all trying to hold it up for all these takes. And it was to get the rhythm right. Ting, 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 ting. And I remember going, this is not my highest use. This is hard.
Yeah.
After you had it FedExed across the country to get it there, you know.
Back in the day, FedEx, it was ridiculous. Like, it was like $35, and we thought that was criminal. Like, that's crime. But it got to LA and, like, you know, 25-pound triangle in a day. It was cool.
The other thing I remember about being in the studio that day is, first that we were in this studio that had just an arsenal of equipment in there. And somehow our manager managed to put in my hands Mike Campbell's baritone 6-string,
Right.
Mike Campbell from the Heartbreakers. And I was just in such awe. I just sat with that thing in my arms all day and just I'm just like, I can't believe I got Mike Campbell's guitar in my hands right now. And I don't even think I ended up putting a track down with it, but I just I'll remember that always, that I got to jam on Mike Campbell's Farrington all day long. And then also that session, I think it was that same day, we scored an episode of King of the Hill as well called Luann Saga. You guys remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
I'm not sure it was the same day though, but I remember recording.
It might have been. Yeah. It might have been the next day. I thought it was the same day. Maybe not. I don't remember.
I missed the title. What was it called?
Luann Saga.
And no, that was later on. I do recall doing that, that's a whole nother story. The way I recall doing that was at that recording studio, not a recording studio, but a rehearsal studio we had in Mesa, next to like Dirty Drummer 2 or something like that.
That was the Cheap Trick thing. That was the Cheap Trick cover.
Oh, I don't know. But
anyway,
I recall them as separate events, but whatever.
I remember we were watching there was a little TV in that room where there was a piano. Remember that there's that one room that had a grand piano in it? And we were sort of looking at it. And the episode is where Hank and Peggy go out two-stepping. And I wrote a little kind of do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I mean, I can still kind of remember the song, but that I thought that was that same day. But of course, you know, I put a lot of miles on my gray matter, so I could be wrong.
So I want to give a special shout out for Pete, who's tried to connect to this this show at least 15 times. I appreciate his gumption in doing so. He's having a little bit of a poor connection. My question for you guys,
if I could real quick get back on what that last topic was before we leave it. You said regarding what Pete had a pass at the solo, and he did, and I remember that, and I remember Pete getting a pass at the long version of the solo, and he just pulled the Telecaster off the wall of fame and didn't even really tune it, just kind of spit on it, went, okay, let's go. Plugged it direct into the board. We ran the long version, which is like, I don't know, maybe a minute and 30, so 30 seconds. And he played this solo, and it was, to my ear, was kick ass. Pete Lubin, our A&R person who hired Pete Anderson as the producer guitarist, went, oh, well, that's pretty good. Let's do this maybe for the section, this and that. And Anderson just went, nah, it's done. And it was fucking done. It was, and that sticks. And it was that good. It was just that good. Like, A&R does not get a spot here. Though Pete Lubin could have certainly refined it. Pete Anderson went, nope, this is how it stays. Yeah, so that's memorialized like that.
So you're saying the A&R guy was a guest shopper, and he could be told, no, you're not putting that in the cart today.
I actually think he could have exercised his authority. Lubin could have said, well, we could dissect this, but deferred to Pete's talent, and it stuck, and it was definitely beyond good enough.
So hopefully, Pete, are you with us? What's going on over here? Never mind. Folks, we have decided together that every time Pete gets disconnected, you have to take a drink. Just be extremely careful.
Doc Klein, you got any shots in the house?
We're gonna get a big bottle.
We're gonna need about 5
bottles. So having said that, you guys have recorded. It's kind of in the works. When you guys finished the session, what was your thoughts in terms of, you know, we did this thing? Were you at all pleased with, okay, let's start with Roger. Here we go.
I remember thinking the theme was cool. We came together, and the band and the producer and the A&R person all put together this thing, and it was a real romp, and I thought it was a quality piece. But when I watched King of the Hill, because they had 3 or 4 episodes in the queue that we could watch while we were kind of sitting around waiting for our parts to do, I thought there's no frickin' way this show is ever going to make it. It was so underdeveloped, and the characters had no traction, and all the interactions seemed random and really without meaning. I was like, there's no chance that we're ever going to see the light of day. I'm glad we did this, I think, but no way is this going to work. And I'm super glad I was proven wrong.
It looks like Doc has listened to.
Oh, he's really doing it. Oh, he's really doing like 5 shots. Like,
can you see me?
That's a lot, Dad.
I don't want to break in my.
It was. He doesn't know that was kind of a trope on the video dealio.
I think Brian is taking an Uber right now.
I don't want to break into my 20th anniversary bottle, so I got this instead.
2 hands.
Oh, 2 hands. Okay. This is public pop. All right. This one for everybody.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers.
Salute. I'm not going to do them all, though. Just leave them here for you.
I think we're supposed to say here's to life, I believe.
No doubt.
Okay. By the way, folks, I have been on a tour bus with Roger, and I've tried his tequila, and I've checked that off the bucket list for me personally. So all right, what was the question? Okay, you guys are done recording. How did you feel about the end product, and where were you guys going next after that was done? Does anybody remember?
buddy?
We recorded this all happened, I want to say December 96, probably more January-ish 97. So we just gotten off we'd spent the entire year of 96 on the road. And we're going home to, write another record. We were already, at least half to 3/4 the way there with songs, but that's kind of where we were at. And we got together to watch maybe the first episode the week before it was coming out or something like that. And I just totally echo what Raj said. We were just like, this is like going to be 6 episodes. And that was fun. Check it out, man. We did a television theme song. How many people can say that, But by the time our second record came out, it would be gone. It's just shows it's a wonderful show. I'm so proud to have any association with it at all. But at first, it just didn't. Shows sometimes take a little push before people really understand what the characters are and what's going on. It seems. I'm talking like I'm an expert. I'm not. But so we were like, yeah, cool. We did this. This was a fun thing to do. And now we're going to go on and we're going to make a second record and, look out for that. So,
yeah, second record and dominate the world.
Right.
Right.
Which is exactly how it happened.
Well, you know
Challenge
what?
that notion.
To be fair, there's a guy in Ohio that loves both albums and
That's the guy.
This guy, and has a pleasure of having the conversation with you. So it did something, at least on that level. Let's do PH, if you don't mind. The album, or I'm sorry, the Yahoos and Triangles is cut. It's done. How was your feelings with was it a major part of your, mindset, or was it like, this is done, I'm on to the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's more the latter. For me, it's just, it was a cool opportunity, and if it hits, great, and if it doesn't, okay. It was a great opportunity. We had fun doing it. Just on to the next record. That's what I think me and the rest of the band were more concentrated on, and just kind of focusing on that. But I'm glad it worked out. I'm totally psyched that we had the opportunity to do it, and I'm glad for the longevity of the show, and I hope it comes back.
Oh, I'm so glad you segued to that. Thank you very much. I have a little bit to read here. King of the Hill writer Brent Forrester recently said in an interview, and he did an Ask Anything on Reddit, and he says, I'm sure Greg Daniels and Mike Judge will murder me for sharing this. They are in hot negotiations to bring King of the Hill back. And the little bit of research I did, it actually looks like they're trying to do so. And they kind of this gentleman revealed a little bit of the plot of kind of like 2012, the actual characters in the show, maybe minus a few of the risque parts. But speaking on that, just what is your guys's, when was, let me rephrase this. I'm so sorry. When was the first time you guys were approached about that song after the recording? Did somebody come up to you guys in the show and like, hey, wait a second, you guys did the King of the Hill thing? Did you guys ever get any of that fandom from that? All right, Roger raises his hand. Center square, Roger Klein.
I remember it was on television, once a week on a Sunday night, and I remember getting comments from friends and fans and family, and the majority of those comments weren't like, hey, did you write this? They recognized PH's drumming first and foremost. Hey, I think I heard PH on this thing. They didn't ask me like if we wrote the tune. Like, hey, did PH drum for the King of the Hill theme? I was like, yeah, he did, and more. So anyway, I remember that. But if you listen to it and listen to the drum thing, it's signature PH Nafa.
Thanks, Raj.
Art, do you recall ever the first time somebody recognized you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really. It's weird. It's the kind of thing in my life. I'm in Oregon. I'm kind of far away. It's not that the show isn't here or anything like that. It's just, it's not the kind of thing where it's like, hey, there's a guy who, played a 30-second theme song that I heard, 8,000 times. It just doesn't come up that often. So I don't think of that. I more with the album, with Fizzy Fuzzy, people will, I went and met a guy here in town who was leaving to move to Indiana, a guy named Brian Burdett. And, before I left, I gave him a couple of albums and that kind of thing. And he sort of like, had that grab your arm kind of look in his eye and was just like, I just want you guys to know, that this album, I didn't like anything in 1996. And I didn't know he's a guitar player. I didn't know what I was going to do. And I heard you guys and I knew that this was it. And I knew, this album was, very special to me and you need to know that. And, that's not the kind of thing you wake up, the day you're going to make an album and think, you hope, but there's no magic pill to make that happen. And it did for us, So I think that more than the King of the Hill thing, that's ubiquitous. And of course people know it. And if I want to impress somebody, I can say something about it. But, the first album was really the thing that made people stop on the street and grab my arm and go, dude, important. Thank you. So,
all right, hold that thought. Pete, are you there? We're going to try to get a couple words out of you. So it sounds like we're having technical difficulties here.
Shots.
Yeah,
Shots.
Everybody take a shot if you can.
Pete Anderson, he.
Let's see if we can.
Shots.
Yeah, cheers, everybody. Cheers.
I hadn't planned on drinking today, but we keep this game up, it's going to be trouble.
Looks like you
Really?
picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
All right.
Try.
I'm two things really quickly. We might have to start a GoFundMe to get Pete Anderson into a different tier of access.
I
Number
want him
two-
to stay there so that I have a backstop, because I like that legends can have that privilege, and I want to be able to just fall back that way, because this is a miracle that this is happening for me.
All right. So really quickly, guys, for everybody that's listening, you can send some messages or your hey guys or what you've always appreciated about the Refreshments and or even the King of the Hill, if we have some of those folks here today, and I will try my best to throw them up on the screen as they are obviously appropriate.
I want to say thanks, Zach, for getting us all together. This is the first conversation we've had as a group for I don't know how long, and it's really cool to get together with bandmates, colleagues, and friends. Like life is long, and I'm so glad to see you guys prospering and healthy, and looking back on our past together in a fond way. It's just good to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Roger, and thanks to everybody. Pete, are you with us?
Shots.
This
Shotgun.
I think that an afternoon
hear
nap
me?
might be in order. Yes.
Can you hear?
Pete, are you there?
Shots.
So good.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Hey, Pete, if you can hear me, last question for you. What was the first time that you heard that theme song on the TV screen, and what were your thoughts with that? And
move on.
okay.
Shots.
Yeah, shots
No
again.
more.
I should okay. So fair enough. Here we go. Here we go.
I have one thing to say about
Please.
This is Brian.
Hi, Brian.
As far as the recognition of the King of the Hill song goes, I can say that much like what Roger was saying, I didn't think there was a chance in hell that show was going to do anything when I first saw it. I'm like, that was fun, but this show doesn't make any sense. It's really not funny. It was just weird, and I'm so grateful that the characters over time. Bobby started getting weird, and then it really kind of hit its stride by about the third season. And by that time, I think, you know, the band had sort of dissipated and gone our own ways, but I was still out there playing solo shows. And when I would play that song, I would do the King of the Hill bit, and people would be like, "Oh, I love that show. I love that show." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's me playing guitar when you hear it on the show." And they're like, "Yeah, right." You know, that no one would me. And but it did give me a lot of gigs. When people found out that it was real, it did give me a lot of gigs. So that's been helpful.
And Brian, only because you were out there, you know, really working it, did anybody ever ask you if you actually were Bobby?
I don't know. I don't think I'd be mistaken for Bobby, but probably.
I mean, you wore the T-shirt.
More like Dale. I think I'd probably get mistaken for.
Here comes Pete.
He's back. Let's see. Pete, are you there with us? This is going to be, please, folks. We're going to, yeah.
Tenacity.
We are. I've retracted the drinking.
I've walked all over my property.
Just to cover, if I were to be tech support, is your phone or device that you're using to come on this connected to your Wi-Fi in the house? There's one of two. Yeah, there's one of two things that can be done. If it is, perhaps try turning it off, and if it isn't, perhaps turning it on. I don't know if you could hear that message from. Probably not. Okay, so
hey, in the meantime, do you mind if I give a quick shout out?
Of course, go ahead.
My friend and personal manager, a guy named Jim Cardillo, was integral in getting King of the Hill to come across our radar screen. He was the guy that signed us to Warner Chappell Publishing, and apparently he knew some of the guys that were in contact with Mike Judge and Joe Boucher and those guys. And I just wanted to say, Jim Cardillo, I love you, brother. And he's a really good guy, and he got us a great deal with Warner Chappell Publishing. So, yeah,
I got a comment on that too. Ding! I'm gonna hit my buzzer here.
Center square.
Jim just sent Brian and I messages today about King of the Hill and how it happened, and it really emphasizes how lucky we were. Fox wanted the Gin Blossoms first, of course, and the Gin Blossoms turned them down. They apparently had a lot of soundtrack work at that point, and we all can remember some of those. And so they said, well, how about Cracker? They were looking for something in that kind of vein. And David Lowery didn't want to work for hire. He didn't want to work on spec. I'm going to play you a lick and pass it on to you. And then maybe you'll pay me. No, maybe not. So, I mean, these guys had sold, millions of records at that point, and we had sold somewhere less than 1 million records. I'm not sure exactly where, but somewhere, So, we were casting a wider net, as Jim said. And so Jim suggested us to Fox. They're probably like, I don't know. That's not the Gin Blossoms, and of course, we were like, yeah, we just wrote this song 2 weeks ago. I mean, we call it a song. Yeah, we wrote it 2 weeks ago. It's like pretty much a theme song. So, so yeah, it was, kind of went down the food chain a bit, and they eventually landed on us, and we're glad they did.
God bless the underdogs. I love that. That's cool.
Amen.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
I've never heard it either.
The other thing too is that set it apart when if you talk to Mike Judge or any of those guys, we were the only band that submitted an instrumental. Aside from the PH and Bud yell, it was just a piece of music, and we originally thought of it as like Bonanza on speed, and it had a good. It just fit for some reason, and those guys saw it and heard it, and they sort of giggled to themselves like, yeah, this sounds about right, you know. So it was one of those things, serendipitous for sure, but it just was meant to be. I think it was the stars were in alignment, and you know, for the Refreshments, it's a really nice feather in our cap because the show is hilarious, and now it's a cult favorite, and it'll be going for years, maybe even make a comeback. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that Hulu has all of the episodes streaming, if I'm not mistaken. I knew that it was on Netflix at one point, but anyway, so Bud kind of opened up the topic.
Dun dun.
Bud brought this one up as getting accolades from folks. You know, just on that subject, Bud, do you have any fond memories for this? So many people's favorite album of all time.
Yeah. How about that? It's like everything and nothing. I can't, I'm trying to think of one thing that, kind of crystallizes that. I think what I remember most about it is being in the basement, being in Dusty Denham's basement, our original drummer, and starting up, and how it seemed like there was this obvious opening, and this 800-pound gorilla in 1994 in the room of rock and roll, and that was, this is supposed to be fun, first and foremost. And I think everybody who came into that basement got that and knew that it was supposed to be kind of start with silliness. If you watch the Beatles or anything, just start with silliness and let it grow from there. And it'll go all over the place, and it did go all over the place. On that album, there's an emotional trajectory that goes up and down and over and around and through and comes back out the other end, So, as long as you start with that sort of basic, we get to do this, we have to do all that other stuff out in the world, and then we're going to come here and we get to do this. And that attitude is maintained. And that's when I think of Fizzy Fuzzy and I think of the music world at that time, that's what I think of. We understood that. And the presidents of the United States of America did too. And they like beat us to the punch by 6 months or whatever. But so we were, we weren't the only, it's not like it was a genius thought. Everybody kind of knew it. With grunge going on, and then a Journey song comes on your radio and you crank it up, and you're having this little private conversation with yourself going, this, it's supposed to be fun, it's supposed to be cool,
Well, that's a really good thought, and I'd like to ask you guys this, because the whole Seattle thing and the actual grunge as it relates to Alice in Chains, Pearl Jam, this flannel rock, so to speak, but yet Tempe, Arizona ended up just sprinkling a totally different sound that was considered grunge at that time, but you guys came up at the same time. What was your guys' opinion on, like, say, Nirvana? That was, they were a game changer for everybody. Luckily, if it wasn't for Nirvana and a few others, you guys probably would have had wore spandex, right?
I think we did wear spandex a couple times, didn't we?
PH, it's your turn, because I have to field you some questions.
Well, I mean, like with bands like that, I mean, I think at the time, we were budding artists ourselves, and we wanted to be, what they were doing, maybe not that type of music, but so there was kind of like this drive, but also this kind of envy going on at the time. You're young, 20-something-year-old kid, and you want to be where some of these other bands are, and not necessarily emulate them, but try and do something of worth, at the time. So I mean, I can't speak for everybody else, but that's kind of where I was. I'd look at these bands and go, yeah, it's, I admire it, I appreciate it for what it is, but fuck, I could murder that drummer. I'd go, kill him. It'd be great.
Roger, same kind of question. Clearly Tempe had a different sound altogether during the 90s. What was your take when that movement started happening? And obviously you guys were just doing your contribution contributing to that music?
I've had shots for everybody since Pete hasn't joined in, so
Yeah, Rod.
we'll qualify this answer. I don't think that it was a response or a reaction to anything. We were just lucky, and that Tempe was a very, very creative art space for musicians when it was, and we happened to be at that place at that time, and just really lucky that we got to see the Gin Blossoms at Long Longs and Dead Out Workshop at the Sun Club and Swamp Cooler and Jimmy Eat World, and all those things just coalesced into whatever that Tempe music scene was. And I don't think it'll ever be that way again. We're really, really lucky that we got to spin out of that, and no more ... shots.
I got something.
Yes.
Brian, I got something here. Okay, so first, I just wanted to say that with regard to Fizzy Fuzzy, we had all been in other bands prior to the Refreshments that took things way too seriously, trying to sing songs about, injustice and saving the planet. And not that those things are bad, but we had all reached a breaking point of where, like, this is a rock and roll band. Let's have some fun with it, And when I met Roger and heard his lyrics and his songwriting, I mean, I was so over the moon, because I'm like, I get to be in a band. I get to be in my favorite band. I love these songs, and they really drew my parts out of me, because I had such a love and respect for the joy and the craft of the songwriting.
You're so kind, Brian. Thank you. I appreciate
well,
that.
I mean, it's the truth, It really is. That's the absolute truth, is that your songwriting brought things out of me that I don't know that otherwise would have come out. But at the end of the day, what I used to tell myself was, I was a huge fan of Cracker's first record, the one that had Tina
Happy birthday
and all that stuff.
Happy birthday.
I used to tell myself that before I die, if I could be involved, if I could play on a record that is in the same ballpark as that first Cracker record, I will die a happy man. And Fizzy Fuzzy, to me, it is that. I think we put out a record that, is important to a lot of people, but it's important to me too. And it was really lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean? Like, we all four came together at the right time in history. And, Raj had these great songs that really touched on these emotions that were maybe different from the status quo that was on the radio at the time, but people needed a break from all the downer shit. You know what I mean? People wanted to have a good time again. And not to say that the whole Fizzy Fuzzy is just a big party record. There's some deep stuff on there too. If you listen to a song like Mekong, I mean, Here's to Life that's like C'est la vie. I mean, that's a catchphrase for all time, in my opinion.
All right, I'll take center square for 1 second and just put my little fan 2 cents in, if you don't mind.
You go, Zach.
And being a musician and being in the music business and having experiences with so many like-minded people that have had so much success, often it does, like, the ingredients are important to a really good cake. And I think that with you four and with Fizzy Fuzzy, the ingredients were just right. That this album had some, like you're saying, a little lightning in a bottle. There's a lot of extra sprinkles, and people just really gravitated to I was talking to, like, his bass lines, like the things that came out out of nowhere in the background. Brilliant. That just like snuck in and snuck out. I've said to PH before, like, the dude's like a human metronome, but with soul, which is there's a thing to that. And of course, Brian, he noodled around a bit, and And Roger ended up doing some phrasings and some catchphrases that are like they're so soulful for people that they remember them to this day, and that's why we have people.
They're eternal. He has some eternal lines, you know?
And just things that you always remember. And
We all did, Brian.
yeah. So I'm sorry, Roger. You wanted to say something. I got off my.
I forgot.
So
I've been doing shots for Pete.
I know.
Poor
guy.
We've gotten off of King of the Hill and onto Fizzy Fuzzy and the Refreshments in general, and I would love to continue, like just sort of a roundtable about the Refreshments and their chemistry and their trajectory at any time. I just want to make sure that we kind of stick to Fizzy Fuzzy. Not to tell you where your forum is, but a couple of things. If you dissect Fizzy Fuzzy Big and Buzzy and you listen to the drum work, the bass work, the guitar work, and then the rhythm guitar work is not there, but the lyrical work, all those things add up to be the whole. What is it? The sum is greater than the whole part. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And we're really lucky that we got to be with each other and do that at that time at that place. And I thank you guys for that opportunity. It was fantastic. It's good to see you again, and I will never look back in anything less than astonishment and gratitude for those days. They were so freaking cool. So if you guys want to get back on another conversation in person over beers or with Zach on the interstate or on the internet, shots. I just want to make sure we stick to King of the Hill, because we four could blab on and on about Fizzy Fuzzy, Big and Buzzy, and I just want to make sure we don't take up more time than
I think you're right, Roger. And as much as people probably would love to have a whole bunch more conversations, but maybe this is a good time just to kind of wrap it up. We're literally at the hour marker anyway. And I guess why don't we just have some final remarks and on whatever you guys would like to say as it relates to, you know, the King of the Hill thing, or just in general being together, and then we'll just call it a day and we'll just see where the cards lay in the future for you guys. And if anybody in the chat wants to say a few words, now's the time for me to put it on the screen. So make your comments now or forever hold your peace. So with that, why don't we just start with PH, if you don't mind? Is there any final? Put you on the spot. You were the first and last.
That's all right. I'm the new guy, right? So I just, I wanted to say that I'm, grateful for the opportunity and everything that's been given to me, and and thanks, to you guys for your, just for your friendship over the years, and I appreciate each and every one of you.
Awesome. Art, you're up next.
I'm the elusive fourth member. It seems to be the role that I've signed up for, but if you haven't heard enough Refreshments in your life, that's probably my fault. So let's see if we can improve on that, and I owe you guys an email.
Oh, there we go. Brian.
All right. First and foremost, on the King of the Hill thing, proud and happy that we had this experience to be part of such a cool show. And then overall, Bud, it's great to see you, man. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, Bud.
Obviously, PH and Raj, I saw you guys recently, so it's not as recent, or it's not as far removed. But yeah, man, I love you guys, and I always look on this project as, probably the best thing I've done in my life. So it's a pleasure to be here with you again.
Roger, you've kind of already set this tone, but do you have any last words or thoughts for today?
Probably they'll be better once we adjourn. But I want to say it was great to see you all. I wondered what we would look like as old men, and you're all better looking than I thought you would be. Thank God. I love you, and we are so lucky. We made a tiny, tiny little mark in history, and let's not forget it. And we owe it to the fans too, and Pete Anderson, and Pete Lubin, and Zach. I want to thank you for bringing us together. And let's do this thing again, or something even worse.
So lastly, folks, I do believe there actually is a Refreshments Facebook page too. So if you haven't ventured to that, be sure that you do. And who knows what the future holds. But nonetheless, a meeting of the minds was an honor, a treat, and a privilege to hang out with you guys. And other than that, folks, we appreciate everybody that came out. You can share the video to your friends. And I think that's just about it. All right. Everybody have a great day.
Tip of the hat.
Here's to life. We'll see you guys on the flip
Here's
side.
to life indeed.